Hello my friends and welcome to a new video. Today I will talk a bit about the Logitech G27 and Logitech as a manufacturer of steering wheels in general. The G27 was released in 2010 to replace the 4-year-older and very popular G25. I believe this must be one of the most impressive unboxings you can experience. A heavy base, heavy pedals and a shifter. It is in line with all the other products I bought from Logitech. It breathes class when looking at it for the first time. The base is made of a thick plastic with the Logitech logo on top. The base can be mounted to a table using the built-in clamps and they attach very well to any desk without an issue and within a few seconds. The front of the base looks somewhat the shape of a Ford Mustang. It is not as posh as a Fanatec base, but it just looks good. In fact, the entire styling of the wheelbase, the shifter and the pedals is just phenomenal. In my eyes, it's really good styling. The steering wheel is 28 cm in diameter and has a stitched leather finishing with perforated leather to the sides of the rim. As you might expect, it does feel very nice to the touch. Because of use of brushed aluminium and a rather limited use of plastic, the rim feels high-end. The steering wheel is also very clean. I think this is what formed my opinion about how a steering wheel should be. There is a small LED rev counter on the top of the wheel, which is a nice bonus. With 6 buttons on the steering wheel, it remains also a very clean and sober wheel. No cluttering and a nostalgic feeling towards a time when we did not have multifunctional rims in our cars. The flappy pedal shifters are no-nonsense flat aluminium plates and give a satisfying click when pressed. The pedal base is made out of a solid plastic block. The pedals themselves are constructed out of metal and also have perforated metal pedal faces. The springs are covered by red cylinders which, and I said it before, gives the pedal base a more premium look. At the underside of the pedals you can find a retractable row of carpet biters to ensure your base stays at its place during racing. So you get a shifter with the G27 and it's pretty handy because it doesn't really act solely as a shifter, but you also have the rest of the buttons which are not on the steering wheel. Thank God. You have them all on the console for the shifter. Already just the fact that you got a shifter standard in this package was mind-blowing. While it certainly is easier to drive with the pedals behind the wheel, it just gives that something extra for immersion. Like the wheelbase, it can be attached with clamps to your desk. A nice touch here is the leather pouch that surrounds the shifting stick. While the materials used in the shifter module are less impressive than the rim itself, it still looks pretty damn cool. The G27 has a dual motor setup, generating a modest 2.3 Nm maximum torque and uses a helical gear-driven setup to transfer the power. The use of helical gears in favor of the straight-cut gears is also a large difference between the G25 and G27. The use of helical gears improves the power transfer and reduces the noise it generates. For more information about the difference between gear-driven, belt-driven and direct drive, just follow the link I provided here. The wheelbase uses optical sensors to establish the position of the wheel, unlike many other wheels where magnetic Hall sensors are used. The pedals of the G27 have 3 different types of springs, with a hard spring for the brake, a medium for the clutch and a soft one for the accelerator. The brake, unlike in the G29 and other 3 pedal bases, does not have a rubber stopper, so they are slightly less immersive than the other pedal bases. The pedals use potentiometers to measure the braking force applied. Both the pedal base and shifter can be connected to the wheelbase via serial connectors. The connectors are made foolproof by using both a male and a female connector. It can only be used on PlayStation 3 and PC. So it doesn't have the chip built in for the PlayStation 4, which was one of the main reasons why I went looking for another wheel, because I couldn't use it on the PlayStation 4. And that is also why I ended up with buying a Logitech G29. That was the wheel that I used for second. And yeah, I noticed at that moment already that the difference between the G27 and the G29, it wasn't all that much. It connected to a PlayStation 4. That was the main difference between them. And this also brought a problem into testing the wheel. I normally test all wheels with my PlayStation 4 as it gives me the least hassle. This time I use my PC and the free-to-play racing game Race Room Experience. Unfortunately, I don't have any gameplay of it available, but the wheel behaved in the same manner I remembered. You have the impurities of a gear-driven system here. Again, referring to my video about the differences between the types of drive, this is something that you simply cannot ignore after driving a belt-driven or direct drive base. The G27 made a large leap with the use of helical gears, but it still is not enough to compete with the other technologies. Don't get me wrong, sim racing still remains a very fun and immersive experience with this base, and the torque it generates is very decent. And there certainly is one big advantage of using gear-driven bases. I have compared wheelbases to cars in the past. I would compare this wheel to like those Mercedeses that you see driving through the Sahara desert that still work after so many years. This is the same thing, so it's hard to break these. This is a big asset on the secondary market. You will have more chance in buying a Logitech G27 in perfect working condition than you would buying any other wheelbase. The braking with the pedals was not as easy since I have been using cones or progressive springs for most of my driving during the last months. I tend to push in the brakes sometimes just because I let my foot lean against the pedal. It's not the first time that I experienced this phenomenon, and it is really annoying. After I noticed it was happening, yeah, I paid extra attention, but that also meant that I would pay less attention to driving itself. The spring could have been a bit more stiffer to avoid this issue. In all, it's a decent pedal set if you look at the big picture. Shifting with the H shifter feels nice, but it is a bit too small for my liking and does feel somewhat toy-like. It does, however, shift smoothly and, as said, a welcome and challenging addition for sim racing. Unfortunately, unlike the G25, the G27 does not support sequential shifting. When this base launched, it was around €250 and that was quite a lot, but it was also the best wheel bang for buck that Logitech ever released. It had sufficient improvements compared to the G25, and when you installed it and raced with the wheel, you actually felt you were having a decent wheel in your hands and not some kid's toy. I do believe Logitech sold a lot of these, especially when I look at what comes up at the second-hand market, and it was during the first years after its release certainly a heavily recommended wheel. I do believe that it was at that moment that Logitech started to get lazy, even though the successors offers a better driving experience in regards to the wheelbase. In theory, the difference between the G27, G29 and G923 have become very minimal. From my perspective, the price is only going up. A shifter is no longer standard included, and the rim, yeah, something which I liked so much about it has been overrun by buttons and knobs. Sure, in all probability it is more handy, but for me personally, it's certainly not an asset. The G27 is the last great wheel Logitech was able to release. From that moment on, they focused too much on earnings and too less on innovation. If you start sim racing on PC, I would certainly recommend looking at one of these. While a second-hand T300 can cost you easily €230, this one can be bought for €100 to €150, and for that money you get a clean wheel that feels nice in your hands, a pedal base that will do the job, and a shifter that increases the immersion. It is certainly not a bad buy. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next video.